All right, good morning or good afternoon, I suppose, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I anticipate some more people will continue to join as we kind of get started here, but it is 12 o'clock. I'd like to turn things over to Tim Cotter to get it started.
All right. Thank you, Brandon. And good afternoon, everybody. And once again, thank you for your time for participating in our third of our four workshops under the SEED program. My name is Tim Cotter. I am the Division Administrator for the Pennsylvania Division with the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration. At the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, we are responsible for truck and bus safety, and my responsibility covers the state of Pennsylvania. Today we have a great program lined up. You can see the agenda. It's a jam-packed hour, and we are committed to making sure we wrap things up by 1 o'clock. Knowing your time is of value, we want to make sure we meet that obligation. So we'll be finishing up come 1 p.m. today. We'll go over a couple of things with the agenda. And we do have a chat box. So as we go through the presentation, if you have any questions you're wondering about, please feel free to put them in the chat box and we'll answer them as we move through the presentation. We're going to start off and have representatives from the Small Business Development Center and SCORE provide a little introduction and overview of the programs that they offer from a business and economic standpoint to help your businesses. And then I will talk a little bit about today's topic is sustain your investment in maintenance and give you that high level overview of really what's the expectations of a motor carrier when it comes to their maintenance program. What we at FMCSA expect the carrier to have from a minimum requirements, and also share with you some of the common violations and issues that we find, not only from the roadside inspections, but also from investigations. When safety investigators go to a motor carrier to check on their compliance, we'll talk about some of the more common violations and issues that are discovered during those investigations. And then Joe Butzer from the Pennsylvania Motor Truck Association is going to give you a really great insight about the importance of safety and maintenance and kind of focusing on preventive maintenance as opposed to being reactionary, the value that you can have from a business standpoint and having a solid preventive maintenance program established in your operations. And then again, we'll have time at the end for some questions and talk a little bit about our fourth and final workshop that'll be held next October. So what is SEED exactly? The SEED workshop. SEED stands for Safety, Education, and Entrepreneur Development. And we really, see this as a partnership between federal, state agencies and industry to help you develop your business and help develop a safety foundation. It's important that each carrier have a safety culture established through their operations. And we're partnering with the Pennsylvania Motor Truck Association today as part of these workshops to kind of help educate, provide information to make you a safer company and provide that education. But we also see you as a business, right? Trucks is one part of that business, but your operation, there's a lot of tools out there, and you'll hear in a few minutes from the Small Business Development Center and SCORE on what tools are available to help you develop and grow your business. And these are great resources that hopefully you'll take advantage of following today's workshop. The one thing that we have when we look at these companies is the average size of the companies. Usually it's around 4 or 5 employees is how many people are hired to start up a new business. And we see that very similar with a motor carrier. 91% of carriers have 6 or fewer trucks. And a lot of times folks think of a trucking company as this large operation with hundreds and thousands of drivers, but that's not the case. Small businesses run the motor carrier industry. They make up the majority of the operation. So we want to make sure that we're working with you from a partnership from the business and safety side. So we got two challenges that we see though when it comes to safety in the business. On the safety, at FMCSA, we're responsible for reducing fatalities and injuries on our highways. In 2019, all highway traffic fatalities, we had over 36,000 people lose their lives, of which about 5,000 of those crashes where people died involved at least one large truck. And here in Pennsylvania, we've lost about over 1,200 or over 1,100 people in 2020. And about 10% of the fatalities that occur on our highways involve a large truck. So our goal is to help bring down that number of fatalities, not only in Pennsylvania, but across the country. And as a business, it's a challenge. During a study from 94 to 2018, during that 5-year time period, about 48% of small businesses actually survived that time period. So starting up a business the first few years is very challenging, and you'll hear about some of the tools that are available to kind of help you from a business standpoint. And we really see it, they go hand in hand. If you can help develop that safety culture in your operation, you're going to be a more successful business. Because if you're operating more safely, you have programs in place, you have less downtime from crashes and vehicles breaking down, you're a safe business, you're going to be successful. And if we can help you on the business side with SCORE and the Small Business Development Center tools, we'll make you a successful business. I believe we're going to make you a safer business because you're going to be more profitable, you're going to run a better operation, and you can see how safety is an investment. So we really see both of these, safety and the business side, really going hand in hand to kind of help your business thrive and succeed. So we're going to first hear about some of the tools and the programs that we have at the Small Business Development Center and at SCORE. So Robin Bertner, who's the executive director over at the Small Business Development Center, she's going to give a rundown on their programs, how they operate, what they can offer you from a business standpoint. And she's going to then hand it off to Andy Green, who's from SCORE, and he's going to talk about some of the tools and programs that they have available to, again, to kind of help your operation. So Robin, I'll turn it over to you.
All right, thank you very much. Everything that Tim said is very true. That, starting a small business, you want to make sure you start it off on the right foot, and that you have enough research and tools and you're prepared and you're ready for what's going to happen. And that's what the SBDC really tries to do. So what we are is we are a small business development center. We are funded by the Small Business Administration in the Department of Community and Economic Development in Pennsylvania to provide this assistance to you at no cost. That's a very big word right there, or two words, I guess it would be. But yes, it is at no charge to you. We get that question a lot. Our center specifically is at Shippensburg University. We cover Cumberland, Franklin, York, and Adams County. Now, if you're not in that territory, do not worry because there are other SBDCs. Every county has an SBDC that's related to it. You can just get in touch with us. Here's the map. Perfect. Thank you. And you can see the other centers. We're always housed at a university. That's just how we do that. But that does not mean that we're faculty or students. We are full-time professional staff at the college, and we work outside in the community. So we do not make people come to us, the university. We like to go out to you and meet you at like a chamber or Economic Development Corporation. What specifically do we do? Well, let's say you need help with in startup, it would be maybe a business plan, maybe financial projections. I've worked with a lot of drivers that have thought about branching out on their own and doing projections and doing market research. Those were the two key things they needed. We have access to a lot of market research tools, so we can review things and determine if it's the right time, the right step. We do financial projections for clients. Yes, here's a list of a lot of stuff that we can do. We have a great network of 16 centers. So if there's something out here that our center doesn't specifically have experience in, we can refer you to get assistance with another center that'll have that experience. So it's really great because we have, you know, a whole network wide of experts. Other things a new business might need help with is business registration. We can help with that. We also connect with the law clinic so people can get, you know, their LLC registered, name registered. But other than that, like I said, it is at no charge. It's all confidential. How it would work, you would just need to fill out a form first. It's a basic form that states your name and what it is that you want to do. And then it just has a signature that basically says that you understand that we don't work for you and things like that. And then once that happens, we can assign you to a consultant. And in our center, we have 4 consultants covering the territory. So we have 2 over in York, 1 that covers Franklin and Adams, 1 that covers Cumberland. And then, like I said, if you're outside that area, there's definitely a counselor that can assist you. You would get assigned to 1 consultant, and then you would work with that person on your individual needs. Okay. So I don't want to go too much into it because I know that we got to have Andy speak. So I'll go ahead and pass it over to Andy Green from SCORE. And that's another great program that we partner with that can assist you guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Robin. This is Andy, and great to have a chance to speak with you today. We do, you know, many of the same things that SBDC does, but our strength is probably more in the one-on-one mentoring. In the local area, you know, we have about 60 volunteers who offer one-on-one business mentoring to our clients. With that, you get your own person to work with. We try to match skills whenever possible, someone with experience. All of our mentors have some level of experience, either in your industry or in business in general. We also are a free, confidential source for mentoring and business education. You know, we have chapters really all throughout Pennsylvania and the United States. I think there's a total of about 365 chapters throughout the country. So wherever you're based or wherever you're going, if you go to SCORE.org, you can sign up and get connected to your own mentor. We also offer, you know, just like SBDC, and we partner with them on many. You know, we have, you know, recorded webinars or live attendance webinars that are really awesome in terms of the breadth of knowledge that they can offer us. It's easy enough to connect, once again, at the SCORE.org website. All you need really do is put in your zip code in the block that says you're looking for a mentor. It'll ask you a few questions about what kind of help you're looking for, and then we'll proceed to get you connected. It's really that simple going forward. Some of the biggest help, you know, as you listen to Tim talk about the importance of treating your company as a business, when you do that and you create a business plan, you also are making yourself look very seriously, you know, at what you're doing, you know, week in, week out, month in and month out, in terms of your cost, your performance, and your goals. And, you know, while we may think sometimes, and we run into this with a lot of businesses, they start their business and they sort of just do it. They coast day to day, you know, demands come in, they fill the demands, but very often they're not really looking at the whole picture. You know, and the whole picture involves, you know, your operating costs, you know, your labor costs, everything else that's involved, you know, in that operation. It all comes together, you know, in your P&L. And your P&L tells you a story. And that's where Seed, I think, is attempting to blend, you know, the safe operation of your fleet with your business. And they do work hand in hand. I mean, I personally have been involved, you know, with a trucking company, 5 trucks, And, I mean, I tracked everything that had to do with that, from the mileage to the labor, the numbers of loads that we had to fill, where they were going. And the P&L was invaluable in terms of making decisions about that fleet and how we were going to operate on an ongoing basis. So, consider connecting, with us or SBDC for access to all of our resources. They're free, as well as one-on-one help, with your business planning, problem solving, just your day in, day out operations. We offer workshops on a large variety of business topics. Once again, our services, visit SCORE.org, and you can get connected into the system, or SBDC. Both of us are here to help you. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy, and thank you, Robin. And I can let you know firsthand, with SCORE, I had an opportunity to sit in some of the mentoring sessions that they have. And I can tell you, it's a great resource. As a motor carrier, as a new company, as an entrepreneur, you're taking on so many different tasks and responsibilities. And to know that you can leverage the resources of SCORE and the small business development centers, to me, it's a no-brainer. You should be taking advantage of them, looking into them. Whether you've been in operation, a year, 5 years, even 10 years, there's value that you can gain from those operations. So we'll have their website information at the end of the presentation. And again, definitely encourage you to look into them a little bit further to help your business side and your operations. All right, so I'm going to talk a little bit about maintenance and the requirements that we have at the federal level for motor carriers. And why do we have to have, regulations, requirements? Well, here's a couple examples of some recent pictures from roadside inspections. If you look at the very top left picture, that's a bald tire. The far right one is quite a worn tire on a tractor trailer. And then the other picture is the axle is chained to the frame of the vehicle. And these are all violations that were discovered during just standard roadside inspections. And these are the problems that we're trying to address and identify before a vehicle hits the road. We don't want to see those violations because they put your life in danger as a driver, but also those that operate the highways with you. So when we talk about maintenance, there's some, really basic requirements, and probably of all the regulations, I think this is pretty much, I would call, pretty straightforward on expectations and requirements. We're looking for you to maintain your vehicles and document them. So for every vehicle that you have, whether it's a straight truck, a tractor, and a trailer, you should have an individual, record or file for that vehicle. You can see the identification that we're looking for. And what we are looking for you to do as a carrier is every time you do some kind of work, any kind of maintenance or inspection or repair, you should be documenting that effort in your maintenance file for that particular vehicle. So every time an oil is changed, your brakes are adjusted, an annual inspection, an emergency repair is done, those are the items that we expect you as a carrier to document for each vehicle that you operate as part of your fleet. And then you need to make sure you maintain those records for 1 year. We're looking for you to maintain them for 1 year. And then if you release that vehicle, let's say you sell it, you still need to just hold on to that record for the next 6 months. But pretty much for the vehicles you have, you got to maintain your records for 1 year. And we find carriers, drivers, they keep their documents for the life of that vehicle just for the historical purposes. And that's fine. And that's great. Roadside inspections, I talked about, in those pictures, those violations that we discovered during roadside inspections. Make sure that drivers are providing you with the roadside inspections. Any out of service violations that are documented must be corrected before that vehicle is moved. So if you have a driver who gets pulled over in Reading, Pennsylvania for a roadside inspection and that the vehicle is placed out of service, it cannot move until that out of service defect is corrected. There's other non out of service violations. They have to be corrected prior to any kind of redispatch after that trip is completed. An important aspect too is you need to make sure that drivers are providing you with the roadside inspection. So many times, a driver will be involved with an inspection and the carrier, believe it or not, doesn't even know about it. And you need to make sure you have that information so you can assess any kind of corrections that need or repairs that need to be made. But you also need to sign off on it and send a copy of that roadside inspection to the state where the inspection was completed. And every inspection will have that information of where to mail in that inspection. You want to keep a copy for your records as well. We expect you to maintain those inspections for 12 months. And you can keep them separately in a folder, all the inspections, or you can keep it with the maintenance file. As long as you maintain it, that's what we're looking for. We also have the requirement for driver vehicle inspection reports. At the conclusion of a driver's day, they should be walking around doing that professional driver inspection of the vehicle. That's the time when we are looking for them to document any defects that they might identify doing that post-trip inspection. If they do find any safety-related defects, they are required to complete the vehicle inspection report, and then that goes to the carrier, to the maintenance shop at the end of that day to make sure that the defect can be looked at and corrected as needed. Now, this record has to be maintained for 3 months, for 90 days. So if a driver doesn't find any defects, you don't have to do the vehicle inspection. There's nothing to document. You'll only need to complete this post-trip inspection report itself if there's a defect. Every driver should be walking around, checking out the vehicle, doing that inspection. But if you do find any kind of violation, any defect, then the driver vehicle inspection report needs to be completed. And if you only have one truck, the good news is you don't have to complete the inspection reports. You're exempt from it. Hopefully by having just that one vehicle, you kind of know what is going on operational. We have an annual inspection, or we call it a periodic inspection. You can see the section number in 396 where you can find these requirements. And we're all kind of familiar with vehicles. Every 12 months, you have to have this annual periodic inspection be completed. In our regulations, we have an Appendix G section, and this lists all the safety areas that must be reviewed at least once every 12 months. This picture up on the screen, the inspection report, is just a good example of the key areas that have to be checked off and reviewed at least once every 12 months. And the key information needs to be captured, like who did the inspection, the date, when it was completed, the vehicle information as well. And then you need to make sure you keep that inspection report for the 14 months following completion of the inspection. Whoever's doing your inspections, they have to have certain qualifications. If they're checking out your brakes, there's also qualifications for those individuals. And these are example forms that you can use. There's a lot online that you can tap into, but I want you to make sure that you are having individuals who are qualified, that meet the qualification standards in our regulations, are looking at the vehicles, reviewing your brakes. And pretty much if you have an individual that went to school, maybe they're certified by the state, they're going to meet our requirements, but you want to just kind of make sure that you do complete these forms for those individuals that are going to satisfy the work as an inspector or as a brake inspector for your operation. And again, different time periods for the requirements on really keeping everything. A lot of companies will just kind of keep all their records for many years in their maintenance file. That's up to you. But here, listed in summary is how long you need to kind of keep all the various maintenance files and documentations that you do have. Just to emphasize again, roadside inspections, make sure you're getting them from your drivers and you're looking at them and you're signing off on them once the work is completed, correcting any deficiencies that are discovered. And to kind of wrap up before handing it over to Joe to talk a little bit from the industry perspective. These are the most common violations that we are seeing from roadside inspections. And this is just from calendar year 2021. And you can kind of see the listed there and how many times over the last 7 months that violation has been cited. And brakes are really a key component. I want to emphasize that where we see continued patterns of issues. Just back in May, on a one-day inspection detail across the country, over 10,000 inspections were completed, looking at brakes, and over 1,200 vehicles were put out of service for failure to meet the requirements when it comes to brakes. And we're going to do another National Brake Safety Week in August, and you can see the date there. So, know that is a place of emphasis for roadside, and we're going to see an increase in that next month from a Brake Safety Awareness Week. And I talked about our investigators that go into a carrier. If you're having a lot of roadside violations, we send investigators in to do follow-up to see what is happening, what kind of process breakdown is taking place. Does management have the tools in place to operate their maintenance program? And on the next slide here is the most common violations that we see during these investigations. And a lot of them we talked about. It's the record keeping requirements that you have. But I want you to note the very first one is operating an out of service vehicle. And too often we see drivers completed an inspection, have vehicle defects, and they are not properly corrected before they move that vehicle or continue on their trip. And that's really putting other lives in danger because they're operating a vehicle with a known out of service violation. And that falls on the carrier and the driver from a responsibility. So that's why I emphasize to make sure you're aware when roadside inspections are happening, because too often we're seeing drivers operate a vehicle with an out of service condition, and it leads to some serious issues and penalties for the carriers and the drivers. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Joe Butzer from the Pennsylvania Motor Truck Association. And Joe's going to give you, I think, a really interesting perspective from the industry about a maintenance program and really more of the proactive as opposed to reactive steps that you should be taking to have a robust maintenance program.
Well, thank you, Tim. Again, my name is Joe Butzer with Pennsylvania Motor Truck Association. I spent the last 40 years of my career in truck leasing and trucking, and I can tell you with confidence that if you follow the program that we have set forth here, it will save you money and make you a safer operator of a truck. What is preventive maintenance? You see the definition of it right there. The biggest thing to point out there is you find a problem before it actually occurs and put you out of service on the road. Why should we do it? It's safer on the highways and it saves us a lot of money, and I'll show you that coming up here as well. The biggest part about preventative maintenance, just like safety, it starts with you. You have to make a commitment to prevent any kind of issue happening to your truck while you're on the road, and you want to take care of it before you hit the road. This is just a graphic showing replace worn parts and components before they fail, clean and restore the components before they degrade, avoid the consequence of component or system failure. This becomes very, very important, especially when you're on the road and you have to have something repaired on the road where you're not in control of that repair. You'll improve reliability, predictability, and train the experts on proper procedures and techniques. That's the basics around preventive maintenance. The technician, whether you're a technician and do the work yourself or you use a shop to do it, you want to make sure that you are doing it properly or that the shop you're having the work done at is doing it properly. And we'll provide some information that you can give that shop as well. You have to be the one to decide that you want to operate a safe truck. You have to be actively involved in the maintenance of your truck. You don't have to be a mechanic, but you do have to know enough to ensure that preventative maintenance is done properly. You have to ensure, as Tim just said, The drivers doing pre and post trip inspections after every single trip. In my case, I always pushed our drivers to do a quality post trip inspection. That way you're not delayed the next morning when you go to leave and you've got a problem with your truck that should have been discovered the day before. Just like Tim had said as well, you're required to keep all your maintenance records on file for each truck separately, and you will save money doing proper preventive maintenance. What's it look like? The big thing is to set a schedule. I will tell you that in my fleets, we did every 16,000 miles or 3 months, whichever came first. If we didn't run the truck for 3 months, we'd still do a complete PM on the truck. The biggest thing you have to do is make sure you do it on time. No excuses. Back to the mileage. So at 16,000 miles was worked for our fleet. Our trucks ran about 100,000 miles a year. If you're only running your truck 40,000 miles a year, you may want to do this even more often to reduce the total cost of maintenance. Doing it early is better than late. And again, you need to know who is performing your maintenance, not just changing your oil. It's a complete assessment of the entire truck. Now, what Tim talked about with the annual DOT inspection, we did that every time we touched a truck. We brought it in for maintenance. We did it every single time. Checking the tires, checking brakes, steering, frame rails, alternator, all that stuff got done every single time we did preventative maintenance. If you're going to do a good PM, it's going to take more than 4 hours. What we've provided here is a preventative maintenance inspection report that we did. This is what we followed every time we inspected a vehicle. So every 16,000 miles or 3 months, we performed everything on this sheet right here. There's 2 pages. The T stands for trailer. We did this to every trailer, every 16,000 miles or 3 months. And then the next one is called the B inspection. We did this on the power unit, whether it be a tractor or straight truck, the same thing got done every 16,000 miles. These are available at PMTA. Should you choose to follow one of these sheets, I would suggest that if somebody else is doing your outside, or you're doing the maintenance for you, you hand them this sheet and say, look, here's what I want done every time we PM a truck. How much is it going to cost? Get a quote. You'll know every single time what it's going to cost you to get a PM. So how does it reduce the total cost of maintenance? So I can tell you over the span of my career, we ran over 200 trucks, and the biggest cost in maintenance should be the preventative maintenance that you're doing. Tires should be the second highest cost. If you're doing everything right, maintaining your truck should be the highest cost, not just making repairs to it, maintaining your truck on a schedule. I want to talk about tires a couple minutes. So preventive maintenance, number 1 cost, tires number 2. The biggest thing you can do is join PMTA. Take advantage of all the tire savings we have for our members. The other thing that we religiously did, we replaced every steer tire at 630 seconds. Every drive tire got replaced at 430 seconds. I realize it's expensive to do that. You're going to spend over $4,000 replacing it on a tandem axle tractor. It is worth it in the long run that you're not having tire failures on the road. More tires are damaged or blown out when they run low below those 30 seconds. We proved that. The other thing, your tire casings are worth some money. Make certain you're dealing with a reputable tire dealer when you're purchasing your tires. Here's one of the things that checking tire pressures. And we've all seen them. Drivers go thumping the tires with a club or kicking them with the toe of their shoe. That is not proper maintenance of a tire. You want to make sure you're checking air pressures every single day with a gauge. That will prevent tire failures more than anything. The biggest failure that you see, and actually it happens after every rainstorm, we have a lot of thunderstorms this time of year. When you have a thunderstorm and the rain is washing all kinds of stuff onto the roadway Anything that was on the side of the road is now washed in the roadway. Nails are a big thing. So checking your tire, especially your trailer tires with the gauge, is important. You can't thump and understand that 5 pounds, the tire's down in pressure 5 pounds and you have a slow leak by just thumping the tire. You have to check it. The biggest thing that we always also did, we always purchased a new tire if we had a failure on the road. Never purchased a used tire, a recap tire. And again, my note there, PMTA members pay the same price for a new tire anywhere in the country. So you don't have to have a negotiated rate. We've already done that for you. We always brought the tire back that failed. How do you even know what happened to your tire unless you actually take a look at it? Take it to a tire dealer and say, hey, what happened to this tire? Generally speaking, if it's a low pressure failure, there's not much of the tire left and you're bringing back 2 sidewalls. But a lot of dealers, when you're on the road, will charge you $25 to handle those 2 sidewalls that are left. So bring it back home and take it to your tire dealer to dispose of it. The other big thing you want to do if you have a tandem and you have the outside tire is blown, bring the tire back and check the inside tire to make sure the 30 seconds match up. You don't want 30 seconds of 12 on one tire and 25 on another, because at 25, 30 seconds is taking all the weight. One of the other big things that we always did, we never repaired a flat. In other words, you get a nail in a tire, we never repaired that tire more than twice. It weakens the casing and it could cause a premature failure on the road. You also don't want to run a tire casing that is over 7 years old. The DOT numbers are on the side of each truck tire. You can tell when it was manufactured. Don't ever run a tire that's more than 7 years old. The drivers have an impact on reducing the truck, maintaining a truck. The answer is yes. The big thing is that I've always found is you have a driver that's getting good fuel economy. He is probably doing very well and reducing the cost of maintaining your truck. You need to pay attention to that. Good drivers are worth it for many reasons. Safety is big, and obviously they can reduce the cost of maintaining your truck. Hire the best ones. Hard to find, but find them. Key takeaways again. Good preventative maintenance does reduce the overall cost of maintaining a truck. It will reduce breakdowns on the road. It'll prevent accidents. Reduce your overall CSA score, and that's important. Here at PMTA, we're fortunate to have Mr. John Rigney, who's a former motor carrier enforcement officer here in the state of Pennsylvania, and he can give you an idea of what he runs into and roadside inspections and what he sees out there. John, you have a second to talk?
Sure. Tim talked about roadside inspections briefly earlier. I can tell you as an inspector, when you enter the inspection site, what will happen is the people there, the personnel will run your DOT number, and it gives you a score. So that score tells them how well you're doing in your 7 basics in the CSA program. They're not public, but they are available to the enforcement people. So if you've been having trouble with passing roadside inspections, you're going to get they'll get a yellow light or maybe even a red light. And that tells them they have an option to check your truck, or they should stop and check your truck. And then if they click on the details, it has all your past inspections listed and all the violation areas that you've had. And then they'll key in on those specific areas mostly. And hopefully you've done the maintenance and taken care of the previous violations in your inspection, because then they can cite you for non-complying with a federal inspection. And the other thing Tim talked about was making sure that the drivers are giving you the roadside inspections. There's a method you can go into your portal and check in the Safer portal and check your roadside inspections that are on file, and you can see if your drivers have in fact been turning the reports in. You'll see any reports in there that you have received, or maybe you'll find some that you haven't. brake components are always the number one violation. Next one is tires. Pay attention to your inspections. The drivers are the key here. A great pre-trip inspection will save you money every day. It's probably 3 times the amount to do maintenance on the highway than it is back at your shop. And with that, I'll give it back to Joe.
Well, the one thing I want to make sure that I point out, when you're trying to hire good drivers, a good preventative maintenance program they'll be able to see it. They can tell how you're maintaining your trucks. They also can look you up on CSA to see how you're maintaining your trucks. So to attract good drivers, you want to make sure you're maintaining your trucks very, very well. They can tell. The other thing about preventative maintenance, I can tell you that over my career, that vehicles that are maintained very well are worth more money when you go to trade them in or go to sell them. And when I say they're worth more money, they could be worth 5 to 10%. I average between 10 and 12%, more than the value of most, because I had customers that wanted my used trucks because they knew I maintained them. Good preventative maintenance will save you money. There's no question about it. It'll do it over time. Again, preventative maintenance should be your number one cost in maintaining a truck. If it's not, you're not doing it right and you're not saving money. With that, I'll turn it back over to Tim, and thank you.
All right, thank you, Joe, and thank you, John. John was mentioning, and Joe, about the CSA scores. That compliance, safety, accountability is a program we use to monitor a motor carrier safety performance. And our last workshop back in April was on CSA. So if you were to go to the PMTA website, you can see a recording of our April workshop that goes into pretty good detail on CSA to give you that explanation on how the program works and accessing your scores. So kind of look for that if you're trying to find more information about CSA. So we have a couple of questions in the chat box, and if you have any right now, we're at a good point to kind of take some of these questions. So there's 2 questions, and Joe and John, I'll kind of defer to you guys from an industry perspective on this. The first one was, if a driver has a clean inspection, what kind of reward programs do some carriers implement?
Tim, that's a very good question. That's one of the things that we had put into place. It was all part of safety. It wasn't just for roadside inspections and getting good ones. It had to do also with any kind of damage to the vehicle. You don't like any bumper scrapes or mud flaps getting torn off, minor damage to trailers when you're backing in. So at our business, we encompass not only just the clean roadside inspections, but also other components. So putting them all together, we tied it to fuel economy too. Again, driver's going to be more safe if he's getting better fuel economy. Hopefully that answers your question.
Okay. Thank you. The other question looks like it kind of pertains to like emergency roadside. Like how much does that cost if you have to call out a service vehicle to do some emergency repairs roadside after a roadside inspection? Any kind of maybe ballpark figures from that standpoint?
Oh yeah, I can, that gets kind of scary sometimes. So generally, and I don't mean to pick on our neighboring state of New Jersey, but I will. If you have a driver on the New Jersey Turnpike and he blows a tire, let's say, and you want to have somebody come out and replace that tire, New Jersey Turnpike will not permit that to occur. They actually have vendors that they call out. And honestly, I had one of my customers that was actually running their own truck and they paid $980 for a tire on the road. It was on the Jersey Turnpike. But you can get an idea. They know you, they know they have you when you're on the road. Where else are you going to go? That's one of the biggest things that we want to get here at PMTA for our members, that the cost of a brand new tire is the same in Pennsylvania as it is in Iowa. And that is a key important thing. Now, from a mechanical standpoint, if drivers come out that have to replace an alternator, let's say, they can charge as much as what I've seen, $350 an hour. And that's from the time they leave where they are at to get to you, and then running for parts. The alternator, costs $280, but they can charge you $700. It is well worth it to prevent any of this stuff from happening. It's about control. You have to be in control of your maintenance. You don't want anybody else being in control. When you break down on the road, they've got you.
Yeah, definitely a costly situation when you encounter that, roadside, besides being a last minute ordeal, and probably the timing when they do happen is never ideal as well. So, okay. The last question that we had is, can I keep records in an electronic format? The answer is, in short, yes. As long as you kind of have those records, it doesn't have to be in paper. If you have some of your files or all your files tracked electronically, as long as you can access that information provided during any investigation, that is more than suitable. Joe, I don't know if industry kind of maybe see electronic records more and more happening. Is it a good thing, bad things to kind of think about from an electronic standpoint?
Well, I can tell you that the PM sheets, like I just presented there, we kept all those in the vehicle file. Everything else was electronic, but we had to have the ability to print them. And that's key if you're going to look at software, maintenance software. I wouldn't recommend maintenance software unless you're getting above 25 to 30 trucks. You can pretty much keep everything on paper. But again, the big thing is, if you have somebody else doing the work for you, maintain a copy of the invoice that they charged you in the vehicle file. Give another copy to when you write the check, basically. Make sure you put it in the vehicle file that someone else had done work on your truck.
Yeah, I mean,
If I could
Go ahead,
make
John.
a comment, Tim. So I agree with Joe. I think that with the maintenance files, I'd want the paper. Obviously that, if you've got a garage full of techs out there, it's hard enough to maintain a computer's operating ability when you're clean and tidy in an office. But when you have mechanics that are working around the grease and grime, you can ruin a laptop computer pretty quickly. But the other reports that you need to maintain, such as the DQ files, I know the trend now is to go with electronic because it's so much easier to provide them to an investigating agency, say if they're doing a compliance audit. And most companies are going with software where they can save all the required reports in a driver qualification file. But the maintenance, I agree that they should be paper. You can always scan them in.
Right. All right, we have one other question. Where can one get more details on the applicable rules to my specific situation? You have one truck, nonprofit, non-commercial, private property only. So the one truck, you still need to have a maintenance file. That if that vehicle weighs over 10,001 pounds, you need to have a maintenance file for your vehicle. You still, if you get inspected roadside, need to maintain those roadside inspections. The one thing you don't have to do is the driver vehicle inspection report. That's where the driver checks out the vehicle after each trip. They don't have to necessarily document maybe any issues that they're finding because you're exempt from that from a one truck operation. So John, I don't know if there's anything else to add to that.
I'm trying to decipher the non-commercial private property only. If you're talking like a what do they call those? A truck that moves trailers around on your property. If it never leaves the property, you just have your own maintenance to do. Maybe some OSHA regulations, but as long as it stays on your property, the regulations don't apply. But if it goes out on the highway in Pennsylvania, if it's over 17,001, or if it goes interstate over 10,001, then you have to maintain all of the regulations do apply. It gets into the applicability regulations 390.3 and 49 CFR.
Okay, all right, great.
If I may, Tim, just there's one big thing, misnomer. My wife works in the nonprofit world. They're technically non-commercial, but when you're talking about a DOT number, if you're on a highway or on the roadway, you need to meet all the requirements by having a DOT number. If you're on the highway, you must comply with all of it, whether you're profit or nonprofit. You are commercial when you have a DOT number on the highways.
Yeah, and if anybody does have a private operation, nonprofit, or you're wondering about where you fall into the regulations, at the end of the slides, you'll see my email address. So feel free to kind of reach out, call, email me. We can kind of talk about your particular situation and answer any of the questions. But Joe is right. You pretty much have more applicable to you than you might think. So getting that straightened out sooner than later is better. So, okay. All right, I think we're wrapped up with the questions. So I appreciate everybody's kind of feedback and comments as well. Right now, I just want to kind of leave you with some information before wrapping up to talk about work zones. That is a big safety emphasis for us at the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration. Believe it or not, when we look at work zone fatal crashes, trucks, large trucks, anything over 10,000 pounds, they're involved in 1/3 of the fatal crashes. When we look at all fatal crashes, we're anywhere from like 10 to maybe 15% of fatal crashes on our highways. But when we just strictly look at work zones, all of a sudden it jumps up to 33% of all fatal crashes involve a commercial motor vehicle. And again, that doesn't mean they were at fault. It just means that they were involved. And our goal is to help reduce fatal crashes, whether in a work zone or outside. And we have identified work zones areas as a place of emphasis. On the next slide, it talks a little bit about Pennsylvania is a top 10 state for fatal crashes. So we work closely with the state police to do traffic enforcement in and around the work zones. So you can kind of see that happening more this summer, and probably seeing more orange cones going up throughout the summer into next year. So that's going to be a continued focus for us here in Pennsylvania. Keep in mind, we also have last year implemented the automated camera in work zones, where if you're going speeding through a work zone, it takes a picture of your license plate, and that can lead to a civil penalty against the owner of the vehicle. So that is operating here in Pennsylvania. And the good news is that is showing a reduction of work zone crashes since it's been implemented. So it's definitely bringing down the speed. That is reducing the crashes in and around the work zones. And this slide and the next one just shows some of the hot spots, more larger operations of work zones that we have in Pennsylvania. So depending on where maybe your business operates, you can kind of see the corresponding numbers giving the information for the location. Philadelphia is another one. We have a whole bunch along Interstate 95. So again, if that's in your wheelhouse of operation, just keep that in mind and educate your drivers. Let them know about the work zones. There's a lot of things that a driver can do when it comes to work zones. Slowing down, being the professional driver. I always try to emphasize you're not just a driver, but you're a professional driver. The next slide gives you, some tips. We want to make sure that the drivers are planning their routes. They're aware of any kind of construction. Maybe you get word of some upcoming constructions where your drivers are operating. Let them know so they can be prepared as they get to that work zone location. And most importantly, avoid that distraction behind the wheel. They should not be on their phone. We want to make sure that they're focused on their job, because we want to make sure the folks that have a job in the work zone get home safely. Just like you and I, we want to make sure that we get home safely each day. And in the work zones, over 250 fatal crashes involve a commercial motor vehicle. We have somewhere around 800 plus people lose their lives in work zone. Some of them are in the car, some are in large trucks. Some of them are the folks that are working on the roads. So in all due respect for their work and allow them to get home safely to their families, we want to make sure that we all are operating safely within the work zones. So that's why you'll kind of see that as a upcoming and continued increase from a traffic enforcement here in Pennsylvania and a number of other states that have a larger proportion of fatal crashes within work zones. So before we go, some of the steps that you can take. We talked about, preventive maintenance. Joe talked about the need for that, and I can't emphasize that enough. The more proactive you are with your maintenance program, your costs are going to come down. It's more than just kicking a tire and looking at it. Taking that time to bring the vehicle in, to do that in-depth analysis, inspection of that vehicle is very important to having an effective maintenance program. Make sure that you document your work. You put a lot of time and money into it. Make sure that you can demonstrate the work that was completed, having the necessary documentation to go along with it for each vehicle that you operate. And get those inspections. Make sure that you're aware of the inspections that are happening. We talked about CSA and how you can go into that program and download any inspection reports that you do have in the past year or two. And we have a lot of resources on our FMCSA website, handouts that you can provide to drivers, and a whole litany of topics, including maintenance on CSA, on roadside inspections. And we have our motor carrier safety planner. If you go to our website, you're going to find a real good kind of breakdown of the federal motor carrier safety regulations. And it provides a more layman's terminology, so you don't get into reading the regulations, but it'll give a breakdown of what the expectations are for your records, for inspections. I talked about those brake inspection requirements. What are the common violations? So if you go into the vehicle requirements chapter, you're going to get a lot of very good information. You're going to get some of the forms that you can utilize to help you be in compliance within the motor carrier safety planner as well. So really look at that, not only from a maintenance side, but some of the other safety regulations that we have. Maybe you're wondering about drug and alcohol testing or hours of service. The motor carrier safety planner can be an excellent tool to help your company understand the rules and do your best to be in compliance with the safety regulations to help us improve safety. So this concludes the third of our 4 workshops. Our next one is in October, where we're going to be kind of focusing on our overall goal of reducing crashes and talk about the impact on your business and on society. You'd be probably quite surprised to find out the cost per person in our state, in our country, and overall the impact that crashes have on society. So we're going to talk a little bit about where the crashes are happening, some of the characteristics of factors nationally and also here in Pennsylvania, and talk about the economics of it as well, how it impacts your business, how it impacts society when we look at these crashes. And we can help reduce these crashes. People get home each day from their work, from their travels, and it also kind of helps bring down the cost of business as well for all of us. So you can see where you can register for the website. At the bottom, you go to PMTA's website. You need to just register for each of these workshops. So make sure you register for the 4th one coming up in October. I want to thank the panel here today for their time and energy to support the SEED workshop. Here are their websites, and the contact information on the next slide for everybody to kind of have. Our intentions are to provide you with a copy of this presentation. So PMTA will be providing that out to you in the next day or two to have this information. But please reach out to all the different people that participated here today to get the information, to get the questions you have. If in doubt, you have my email. You can reach out to me and I'll put you in touch with the right people. We want to help your business succeed. We want to help your business be safe, and we want to be able to kind of see the results. So anything we can do to support you, just please let us know. So with that, this will kind of conclude our July workshop, and we look forward to talking to you in October. Thank you.